Hello, my friends. Let's talk about the philosophy of aesthetics for a moment. Now, this isn't an area of philosophy that I spend a lot of time with, mostly because my own relationship with art is very sparse. I spend more time with words than I do with images, more time with ideas than I do with representations of those ideas. And I suppose that's a pretty weird statement, considering I spend pretty much all of my time evaluating artistic pieces like anime and video games. But in doing that, I mostly spend my time looking at the dialogue and how it's communicated, or the mechanics of the game and how they play into story, which doesn't require me to really appreciate the artistry. But I had an interesting thought recently. What if it is actually impossible to be ugly? Now, everyone has grown up listening to those Shakespearean syllogisms about beauty, that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. And these phrases make us think that beauty is inherently subjective. And I would have to agree with this. I think most of us would, that the things that we find beautiful are usually beautiful for reasons that are completely irrelevant to what anyone else in society thinks. A scientist can tell us that people on average see symmetry as a sign of beauty when it's on the human face, and yet when we choose the people that we love, when we find beauty in others, we almost never refer to those foundational principles of beauty which claim to be objective. Conversely, we treat the idea of ugliness very differently. Even though beauty is purely subjective and its nature is treated as an objective fact that can't be avoided, we still consider people with deformities or disabilities to be ugly before we have a more humanist awakening to lead us to appreciate all the possibilities of the human form. When we quantify beauty, what we are actually doing is trying to quantify deviations away from some perfect objective ideal that we've mathematically created, but doesn't really exist in how we live our lives. And so it seems that we are actually calculating ugliness with those statistics. So if we want to talk about beauty, we have to start at a subjective baseline. Otherwise, we'll lose track of the topic we actually want to speak about. So let's try to form a working definition of the word beauty. For now, let's try to define beauty as what one finds attractive. With this definition, we can refer to things not only visually pleasing, but also auditorily pleasing, pleasures of virtue, feelings of bondedness to friends and family and loved ones. Attractiveness essentially will be a more generic term to refer to beauty in whatever medium it takes. With that as our definition of beauty, we also need to try to form a definition for ugliness. After all, if we want to determine whether or not ugliness exists, we will need to know what it is we're talking about. So, if beauty is what we find attractive, it would make sense to say that ugliness, beauty's opposite, would then be what we find repulsive. With these two definitions in place, we can now get to my idea for how ugliness actually doesn't exist. So here's my first question to you. How is it that we, the common human, determines who to form bonds with and who to procreate with? Unless you or your family considers themselves to be some form of elite or noble type of person in the world, chances are you are going to choose your partner based on who you find attractive, whose qualities you consider attractive enough to devote a significant portion of your life to. Given that political marriages, financial marriages, and other sorts of socially expedient relationships are by and large extraordinarily rare nowadays, then both you and whoever your partner may be have used the same method for determining that you both should be together, that you should be bonded, and, if the cards are right, that you should bear children together. Two people find attractiveness in one another, and they bring those traits together to form a new union in which those attractive features are given new form. As a result, children end up adopting the traits which the parents find to be attractive. How then could a child be born which has none of those attractive traits? It wouldn't be possible. How could traits seen as attractive be categorically seen as repulsive objectively by all other humans? It wouldn't be possible. It may be the case that some people may not find a particular person's features attractive, but objectively speaking, those features must necessarily be attractive to some members of the human race in order to perpetuate themselves in the way that we humans reproduce. Look, it is a lot easier for us to identify what we find unattractive, and perhaps that's why we humans find it far easier to treat ugliness as an objective fact, and shackle ourselves with feeling as though we ourselves are ugly. But when beauty is itself a merely subjective experience, it is therefore objectively true that we are all beautiful, that you are beautiful. Thank you for watching, my friends, and as always, stay true.